Yeah, Amanda always said that the trade association name was going to be a little bit too much of a mouthful. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at this event. It's one that has been very important to me for a long time. 2013 was reportedly quite career-changing for Louise when she was here. It was quite career-changing for me as well. I was relatively new into the vape industry at the time. And so as a declaration of interests, they are just the commercial and trade association interests for me. I'm technical director at Totally Wicked, which is a member of the Independent British Vape Trade Association. So the things I'm going to talk to you about over the next 10 to 15 minutes are the views of me, not just as someone who's involved in a vape business, but actually in an association of vape businesses. And I believe that as a sector, we need to work together and we need to work with other stakeholders in the sector to make this better. And so with that in mind, I'm going slightly off-piste for the first things that I'm going to talk about, because a couple of things have really rung true to me from talks. Those most important things being from Professor John Britton this morning, who talked about misleading headlines, misleading media and misleading science, perhaps being responsible for people not making quit attempts with e-cigarettes, and that should that be the case, then perhaps people need to think about whether they are responsible for premature deaths. Well, the bad news is it's already there. It has already happened. As Tim alluded to, new users have already started staying away from vape stores and moving over to vaping as an alternative to tobacco. Driven not by anything real, driven not by anything that is a health effect from e-cigarettes, but because there have been some very scary things happening with THC in the USA. And later on I will move into reasons why that's not happening in the UK, because we are a regulated industry that works with the regulators. But if anyone is knowingly misreporting about vaping, if anyone's knowingly leading people away, in the UK alone, there are nearly 500,000 hospital admissions a year and getting on for 90,000 deaths every year due to smoking. Vaping is preventing those from happening. If you prevent people from moving to vaping, you are causing premature death. That, to me, does not seem like the right thing to do, and it does not seem like a responsible media. And I don't want to seem over-emotional about it, but it just seems very wrong to me. We know that it's happening because we know that people have stopped going into vape stores. Yes, it seems unjust that the front line in helping people towards smoking, before even smoking cessation people were involved in using vape for that, and the people who are suffering worse from it seems wrong. That was the intermission. Wanted to talk about vape stores in the UK. So I'll talk about ours, but actually I'm talking about vape stores in general. Because people have this vision, perhaps, of tattoos and baseball caps and big clouds of vapour and all of those things as being what vaping is all about. And perhaps it once was, and perhaps that's what the advocates looked like. And 7 years ago, when I was sitting in this room, I had behind me clouds of vapour rising from a cloud of vapours, because the people who actually were in the vanguard of all of this, that's what they look like. And that's good, because they made a really important thing happen. But actually, the normal person going into a vape store nowadays, the average person going to a vape store, is just an average person. And they look like any other adult who just happens to smoke. So our stores are welcoming to those people. They have well-trained teams that have the experience to support people. They're really good smoking cessation councils. They've been doing it for a long time. And they provide choice of liquids and devices. And I'll get on to why the choice is important, but the main thing is flavours are important. There's this debate that goes, we could just do away with flavours, it'd make life so much easier. Well, we can't. But let's start with what a vape store looks like. This was photographed on Friday at about 5 o'clock, not by me, by one of our marketing team. He remembered that he'd forgotten to take some photos of our lovely store in Manchester Cross Street and then turned up with some from Preston. But like so many vape stores, it's professional, it's uniform, it's appealing to people who are just going in and wanting to get some advice. It doesn't look like a head shop. It looks like something different. And Rob, who is currently managing that store, I don't like the beard. He never used to have the beard. But he's been doing this for a long time. He's been doing this for about 6 years. And you can see that he is actually able to provide people with choice of flavour, and choice of flavour is important. I took, just for this, Amanda asked if I could look very specifically at some flavours. And I thought I'll do it in 3 different ways. Now, in September 2017, our business introduced a set of 4 flavours because we'd decided that a lot of smokers going into vape stores were paralysed by our then choice of 46 different e-liquid flavours in our main range. So I thought, let's just make it really simple for them. Do you want tobacco? Do you want fruit? Or do you want menthol? And then one of the tobaccos that we'd rejected, our chairman, Fraser Cropper, tried it and said, Liam, did you ever used to smoke whatever hand-rolling tobacco? Green is the sort of the giveaway of the colour of it. And I said, yes. And he said, so did I. Go and try that one that we rejected again. And we decided we needed 2 tobaccos. So we had something that was a little bit like ready-made cigarettes, tailor-made cigarettes, and something that was a little bit like a roll-up tobacco. Combined for that e-liquid over the first 6 months of sale. So this is only selling really to new vapers who are moving from smoking. We found that getting on for 40% of them preferred tobacco flavours. About 23% of them preferred menthol flavours, but 40% liked fruit first time round. That was what they were moving towards. So all of those were important. And then again this summer, we've launched a new product, and that was for open systems, so it's an e-liquid in bottles. So we launched a new product, which is pre-filled pods. And everyone's talked about a major manufacturer of pre-filled pods. Other pre-filled pods are available. Our one's called the Totally Wicked Bite. Matthew's one's called the Liberty Flights Dot. Let's remember it's a trade association. All good products, but actually you can see that the layout of these is really similar. So these are primarily for new users. They're primarily for people moving from smoking. And this time we've got 37% of them prefer fruit. Fruit's the most important one. Tobacco, 35% like tobacco, 28% like menthol. It's a fairly even split between all of them. It's a little bit like whether you wanted to stay in Europe, whether you wanted to leave or whether you just stayed at home. It's the same sort of split. They are all really important. To separate any of those out of the product offering would be really divisive. But then the interesting thing is what happens when you've got a range that is around for a long time. So our red label range, I worked on developing this at the end of 2012. We released it in 2013. And I took a 6-month snapshot of this particular product. I mean, this is somewhere between 5 and 10 million bottles of e-liquid sold. So it's a really good indicator of preference. And the really interesting thing about it is we've got fruit is really popular. We've got fruit with some menthol in it is really popular. We've got menthol is really popular. I separated desserts and sweet fruits into one section because the sweet fruits are different from things that are actually like fruit. And I like the fact people are taking photos of this. But this data is going to be mirrored across every IBVCA member. It's going to be the same. But the really important thing is the only things that are really looking insignificant for long-term use are tobacco, the thing that may still be allowed in the USA, and coffee, vanilla, and other. And unflavoured, well, someone said, why don't we just sell unflavoured? People would be fine with unflavoured. I'll tell you what, if they're fine with it, why don't they buy it when they've got the choice? Because we do make it and sell it. But really important to remember that flavours are really, really important. This is not just a game. The other thing that we do, we manufacture, we do some importation, we work with some manufacturers, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to be in that part of the game, what it's like to be in that end of the supply chain. Like any manufacturer, people are thinking they'd just do anything they could get away with. Why would we do that? We're going to be the best that we possibly can be. We want to be held to high standards. We want to try our best. So we have outstanding product stewardship. We do our very best with that. We employ really good people for it. We have defined and continuously improving quality control systems because we never want a customer to come back to us and tell us they've had a bad product. Why would we want that? We're compliant with relevant standards, but not only that, we also contribute to upcoming standards. So IBVTA have got members on every UK and European standards committee that's relevant. I am the person for quite a few of those because I believe in that. We have to be part of making it better. And UK and European regulation sets a reasonable bar, but actually for good businesses, we want to expand, we want to get beyond that. That's really important. Because UK and European regulations, what do we actually have to do? Declare what's in our products, do some toxicology, Do some emissions testing. Commit to really good product stewardship and make sure that we're making really good products every time. Meet a load of product and packaging requirements. And all of those are required for nicotine salt products as well. So we did do some toxicology on those as well to make sure that we are only selling safe products. It's not required for CBD, and I said in the in my abstract for this that I'll talk about CBD, but this is as much as I'm going to talk about it. If you're going to make a CBD product, make it to the same standards that you'd make any other product. That might mean that you're probably unable to use so-called winterized isolates or any of those things. You're going to need to do the job properly. But if you meet those standards, you may have a reasonable case for selling a CBD product. Someone asked me what USA regulations would mean for us, because those are coming, and they're coming in May this year. And the short answer is we'd need something called a common technical document. So it's a medicinal product style evaluation. So we'd need a module on quality. We'd make sure that we could make things to GMP and that they were properly designed before we did it. We would need to do a load of non-clinical work. So we'd need to do a lot of science around the product and what the product did. And we'd need to do some clinical work. So basically, we would need to actually expose some people or do meta-studies to understand what went on with this product. It's a really significant financial commitment. I've looked at it endlessly. I mean, unfortunately, in the current climate, I can't see anyone would back me financially if I wanted to do this anyway, because this THC scandal means you can't borrow money cheaply in this sector. I doubt that's going to happen for a very long time. So for me, it looks like a complete non-starter. And I know people are trying to move through to this for the USA, but PMTAs have done a very, very harsh thing to the USA industry. And yet again, I don't want to seem that I'm complaining about injustice endlessly, but that is probably not the best way for things to end up. So what should the future hold for the USA and the UK? Well, I think the PMTAs, the flavour bans, lots of those things, we're taking it all very seriously and talking about it. Do you know what? It's a political role of vaping. The claim that we're going to have a flavour ban, oh no, think of the children, we'll have a flavour ban. Actually, there isn't particularly clear evidence, certainly there's clear evidence of youth uptake, but of youth epidemic in the USA, probably not. The flavour ban was a knee-jerk against bad THC products being sold. What we need is an empowerment of the societal role of vaping, and that's exactly what Louise was talking about before me, which is a societal role in helping people move away from dying from using tobacco. We need to improve our partnership with public health stakeholders, and we're working on it. IBVTA is central in that. And we work extremely hard to make sure that those stakeholders, whether it's smoking cessation services, all the way to Public Health England and MHRA, that we do our best within there, and we will continue to do so. We don't have enough members. If you know someone's got a vape shop, ask them to join us. They can then become part of that movement. We do have a lot of members, but I'd love it to be every independent vape store. Most important in all of this, beyond all those public health stakeholders, and I talk about these people that are suffering on the front line, never underestimate the value of vape stores in all of this. They were the frontline soldiers that actually made this happen in the first place. It was the bricks and mortar vape stores that made a difference. We owe them the respect to help them to continue for as far as they possibly can in doing good. Thank you very much for listening.